So Charlie Kirk got a lot of flack for this because he said, I go on a plane, I see a black pilot, and I think, am I supposed to be worried?
Yeah, well, that's racist.
But the point he was making was he was calling you racist, dude. And you guys didn't get that. He said, you have created a situation where average people think you are hiring people who can't do the job based on race. And we don't want to live that way.
I mean, he's the one getting on the plane and seeing a black person and saying that person's not qualified. I don't get it.
That's not what he's saying. He says Democrats are intentionally hiring underqualified people based on race. Why are they putting us in a situation like this?
He's saying that if a black person is in the seat, it means they're unqualified. That's his assertion.
No, he's saying he doesn't know because he knows you are advocating for it.
I'm just listening to the words that he's saying. It seems pretty straightforward.
I would say that when the left and the right only listen to the surface level clips and arguments, they don't actually understand what the person is conveying. And so the argument then is Charlie Kirk is a racist, which is not true. Charlie Kirk's point on that plane was, let's just map it out 1, 2, 3. Democrats have created policies by which they will put people in positions of authority who don't have the same caliber degree or have passed certain tests because of race. We've seen policies where they will actually go down the list of top candidates until they get to a race. This creates a concern among people that that individuals are being hired without the capability based on race. That's the idea he's trying to convey. Not that he doesn't want to fly with the black pilot.
You think that when you think that in the time when we only had white pilots or white executives or white whatever, all those people were hired on merit. None of them floated through for some other reason, like
nepotism.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
there's
I bet some people gave BJs.
Yeah, exactly. The systems are. Like they already do that for everybody. So
but it wasn't based on race.
So for him to go in and say, when I see a black person, that's when I think that, not
because
when I see a white person.
Your policy is
then
racist.
That's racist on his part because he's only focusing on when the black people.
But it's because the policy is race based. The policy is race and gender based. And so the issue is not Charlie Kirk saying he doesn't like black people. He's saying Democrats are hiring people who are less qualified based on race. This is creating a concern for people, which we don't want to experience.
So the counter argument would be if you have a system that has no black people in it, right? You have a pool of people doing the job that has no black people in it. That clearly is not based on merit because, black people are X percent of the population, and surely some would have gotten through if it was really based on nothing but merit. So some of the existing white people must actually not have gotten there via merit. It must be because of a race-based system. So instead, let's adjust the system so that we give everybody an equal opportunity. That is going to mean that there are going to be more black people in the system. Now that happens, he now gets on the plane, he sees a black person, and he says, now it seems they seem unqualified to me. That's pretty straightforwardly racist.
I actually think that it was racist systems that kept out qualified candidates. What I would say to your argument is the only distinction between what you said and white nationalists is that you want a system to bring those people in and white nationalists don't. So you both the left and the right agree that there is some kind of phenomenon where black people should be qualified and aren't qualifying. I disagree with that. I think that there were institutions throughout history that hampered the process by which minorities were able to go to schools to effectively get those degrees. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult. The liberal argument floats dangerously close, I think, to what white nationalists are hoping for. It's not to say that you're wrong or anything, but it's a similar argument. That is the implication. So I'll put it this way: Ben and Jerry's. Do you know what the 1350 is? They call it the 1350.
Is that a Ben and Jerry's thing?
Yeah. Not intentionally, but this was like, holy shit, brother. Like, maybe you shouldn't be tweeting this. The 1350 is a meme which references despite being 13% of the population, black people commit 50% of the crimes. And so that is a meme shared among white nationalists. Mm-hmm. Ben and Jerry's put out the exact same meme, but tried approaching it from a DEI standpoint. And this lit the fucking internet up with people mocking Ben and Jerry's, being like, holy shit, they've gone full white nationalists. They said, despite making up 13% of the population, black people make up 50% of the arrests. And the white nationalists said, you're correct, 100% correct. We agree with you on everything, and started cheering for Ben and Jerry's. And I was like, whoa, guys, don't take their arguments from them. Like, I think it's fair to say that there are racist, components of racism that have existed throughout this country for a long time, the solution would be colorblind hiring processes and educational benefits that target class and not race, because then you remove the racial component from the argument completely, instead of creating a racial argument for the white nationalists.
But if you admit that people in America are racist, you can't, if you want to, you can't build systems that are completely blind to race, or you have race continue. Then you have individual racists continuing to
That'll never
exert their
change.
power over the system.
So what you do is
you accept racism. You're just like, okay, yeah, racism will continue to affect every part of the system,
and we can mitigate it, right? So, for instance, for hiring practices, when it comes to the hiring managers, they should have no access to the name or the race of the individual. It should literally be, here's the resume, here's their qualifications, is it a yes or a no? And what we do then is we should target class-based opportunities for the younger generations, meaning if we go, like, so for instance, I grew up in Chicago, heavily racially segregated. We had 47th Street was a dividing line where on one side it was all black. On the other side, it was largely white, but there was some Latino there. This created a lot of problems. Two different neighborhoods looking at each other like others. And if you were white and went to the black neighborhood, you got arrested. If you were black and went to the white neighborhood, the police wouldn't go near them because they were scared of being called racist. The gangs would come from the black side and rob people on the white side, creating a lot of anger, where the white people would be like, it's black people doing it. And then I'd be like, I actually think it's a different community. It doesn't matter if it's white or otherwise. They just don't view as part of their community, so they don't care if they rob you. But if I robbed you, all the neighbors would get mad at me, right? The issue isn't the race, but this created massive racial tensions. If you went into that neighborhood and gave the black neighborhood a ton of benefits, resources, checks, or whatever based on race, brother, there'd be murders. It'd be fucking nuts, the racial tension you'd create. But if we do it based on income and class, then you'd have equal amounts of both neighborhoods now going to the same schools, making friends with each other. And then you're going to have one guy who's going to be like, yeah, I live on 46. And they'll be like, no way, dude, I live on 48th. Like, bro, you're south of 47th. Let's hang out, man. And now they're friends. They don't view each other as others. They don't feel like their taxes are going to one racial group. Instead, what's ended up happening is DEI programs have said it's going to be based on race. And so then you get, if you go to like Appalachia, for instance, these are the poorest of the poor, and they feel like what little they could have is being given away to other people based on race, and they're being left behind, which breeds racial animosity.
Yeah, I mean, the pitting of, poor white people against black people is like just part of the strategy of, the people in power, and they've always done it. And
liberal or
otherwise. It's unfortunate to watch, it's unfortunate to watch the country like descend into that again. Racial issues are hard to tackle because we're very susceptible to it. And unfortunately, we've backslid into a period of white racial backlash again, where, the people around the country are they're just like, the Trump administration literally just treats any black person as unqualified and fires them from the federal government. Like, that's what Pete Hegseth is doing in the Department of Defense. It's just like out and out racism, it's like a racial purge of the government. It's really bizarre. They're trying to like resegregate the country.
Where did that happen where they were firing black people?
I don't know the names off the top of my head, but yeah.
That sounds not true.
Yeah.
Because I'll put it this way, even if it were true, it's so overt that
they're being really overt about it. Donald Trump is going on television and going, planes are crashing because of DEI. So
but DEI is a philosophy, is an ideology.
He's saying because there are unqualified air traffic controllers because they were hired because they're people of color. It's racist. He's racist. He's a racist man, and he's issuing racist policy, and the entire country's going along with it because we're in a period of white racial backlash.
When do you think he became racist?
I think he's been racist his whole fucking life.
How did he win all those awards then? Or those accolades and
I don't know what accolades he won. He's won accolades.
Yeah, it was like a civil rights leader awards and shit.
Donald Trump has won civil rights leader awards.
Let me see if I can find something. I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's. Awards are dumb, so I don't.
They are dumb.
I think he won them because awards are stupid. I don't know. Bad job awards committee for giving the.
He did get the Ellis Island Medal of Honor, but there's a correction. It wasn't particularly over racial issues. I don't know what that means.
You love Trump so much. It's funny you're pulling up his awards.
I don't know why you think
Oh,
I
he's
think
won so many racial awards.
I think it's weird that you think I love Trump.
I mean, you're here talking about how great his approval numbers are. Like
That's a fact. That's a fact statement.
Your YouTube headlines are all like Trump is crushing. His numbers are up. And the rest of the press is like his numbers are down. And
I never said his numbers were up.
I
literally just told you right now because of the tariffs, his numbers have gone down.
Dude, look. Hey,
I went on Piers Morgan and said Trump's approval is absolutely down. And I said, you don't got to look at corporate press. Take a look at Rasmussen. They love Trump, and they have Trump down 4 points.
Let me ask you something.
I don't think you watch my show.
I don't watch it that much. I've looked at like your YouTube headlines.
We've never said Trump's polls have recently been rebounding, but that's a fact statement from Newsweek aggregating like 3 or 4 different polls.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie and claim his polls are down if they're not down, and if his polls are down, I'll say they're down.
Okay, I mean,
I use
all the reporting I saw in the last 2 weeks. Like, his numbers are down, and I saw you were going there up. And I look at your YouTube headlines, and a lot of times it seems like, look, the easiest way to get people to click on YouTube is tell them that their side is winning. I have trouble getting sucked into this in my own YouTube headlines.
I just go by. And you know what I try to do? I try to avoid singular polls as well. Mm-hmm. So I was on Piers Morgan. He asked about this. Carrie Lake, of course, said, "Of course he's doing well. The polls are lying." I said, "No, they're not." I was like, the issue is that people don't. The one thing that's challenging is that the polls are so dramatically different from each other that it's going to create this perception. But my point was simply track a single poll. Find one you trust. If Trump supporters love Rasmussen, okay, well, Rasmussen had Trump go down. So even if you think ABC is lying, is Rasmussen, who had Trump up yesterday? Well, he's down today. So Trump's approval went down with. Oh, come on, it went down with the tariffs. The tariffs were bad for him. But
the tariffs are bad. They're really stupid. He's losing his mind.
So, for instance, like Rasmussen currently has him up 3 points.
Yeah.
The challenging thing, I think, is like if you look at Economist and Big Data, they cover nearly the same span, +1, -8.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, I don't know how you track singular polls. And the aggregates are also confusing as well. So what I say is I always show this. I'll always try to show all the polls in the aggregates. But then I'll say, let's just track an individual poll. Maybe it had Trump -10 yesterday. Maybe he's -12 today, showing a downward trend. But where the favorable poll?
But like, I don't watch your show that much. I click around. It seems like you support Trump generally. You're normally saying,
I gave him a B+.
Here's why the thing that he did. Yeah, okay. So you like him generally.
He did a lot of bad things too.
So I'm saying, he's behaving in an authoritarian fashion. He's abridging free speech. You're like, oh, but presidents in the past did that. They were being authoritarian and they were abridging free speech. And here's why Bush did it, and it's bad.
Well, that's not how I phrased it. My phrasing was, do you think it's distinct from other administrations? Like,
you thought it was good when they were doing it before?
My question for you is, do you think it was good when they were doing it before?
It was bad.
Yeah, and my point is there are instances where you didn't care and instances where you did. So again, I think
I wasn't on this show then, so I cared about it then.
Let me. So Piers Morgan had a great question for me when I went on the show, and I keep bringing him up, but he does a good show. It's kind of sensational, but he asked me how I thought Trump was doing, and I said B+. I think that the universal tariff thing is I'm skeptical of it. It's a little wonky. Selective tariffs, I think, are a good thing. And then Piers asked me, would you say the same thing about Joe Biden if he did this? I said, of course not. Probably not. And the issue is that Donald Trump's moral positions more largely reflect my own. Mm-hmm. And just like liberals who would defend Biden, we're more forgiving of the individual who does errors and makes mistakes if they're more in line with our worldview. So if Joe Biden, like the Afghanistan debacle, the Burisma scandal, Nord Stream, all of these things, Keystone Pipeline, I'd look at as a litany of negative compounded with another negative, I'd say it's bad. Donald Trump, I see, is doing a spattering of bad things, but largely good things. So I say I can tolerate some bad things from Trump. I'm not going to condemn his whole presidency because.
Yeah, so you're like, it's tribalism on your part. Like you're like, he's my guy. I agree with him about. I don't know what do you really like? You hate trans people or whatever, and so.
Well, I'll reiterate it. Right. I praised Joe Biden when he was fighting to remove ATM fees. Mm-hmm. But you have a litany of negatives with the Biden administration that I see. And so when he does something wrong, I'm going to say one more grain of sand in the heap of the bad things he's doing. With Donald Trump, the policies enacted, I largely agree with. So when he does a bad thing, I say, yeah, that's kind of bad, But, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for now, and we'll see what happens.
Well, you're also talking about
Liberals do the same thing on all their issues. It's not unique to me or you or any other person. Obviously,
you're talking about human psychology. When someone's on your side, generally you forgive the bad things that they do a little bit.
Well,
more,
I don't forgive the bad things. I'm saying we tolerate them. We say
close. Those are close to each other, but sure.
Well, the difference is I'm not going to forgive Donald Trump for he's accused of killing a 7-year-old American girl in Yemen. I want that criminally investigated. I'm not going to forgive him for 59 Tomahawk missiles into Syria in his first term. That was ludicrous that he thought that was going to be good, and it's ridiculous the media praised him for it. These things always deserve condemnation. In fact, I'll criticize him now because he said to me personally in an interview he wouldn't bomb Yemen, and then he did. Now he's claiming he's not going to do it anymore, but that deserves criticism. I don't need to forgive him for that. I will challenge him because of it and demand he do better. I see largely what he's done as things I want to happen, and the bad things should be called out when they are. I'm not going to condemn his presidency over the bad things. I will criticize them. For Joe Biden, I see a litany of bad things. I condemn largely what he's doing. Periodically he gets praised for the things that he's trying to do. And I'll say, look, that's a good thing, right? ATM fees are fucked up. And that's bullshit. A tax on the poor through the corporate banking system that shouldn't be. However, Biden, look, when he defies the Supreme Court over the student loan thing or tries to decree an amendment, the criticism there is you don't have the authority to do that, to just decree an amendment. That's a ridiculous overreach. Nice try, buddy. When the courts say you can't forgive student loans twice and he does it anyway, we're like, holy crap, look at what he is doing once again. With Donald Trump, we say, yeah, he shouldn't have done that with Abrigo Garcia. That was wrong. What's the solution here? Let's just try and mitigate that, but it's harmless error. There's a difference in the scale and scope of actions taken.
But they're making they're making such a big deal out of it, right? They're not treating it as a harmless.
It's a political
error,
attack
right?
against Democrats.
Yeah, it's
I think,
and against immigrants,
illegal immigrants.
Well,
there's a distinction.
Yeah, and also foreign students who are here studying, and it's a full-pronged attack against all types of immigrants. Like he's trying to frighten every type of immigrant in America. They've gone down the list, when he's talking to Bukele and is like, oh, you gotta make a prison for citizens too,
Yeah, that was wrong. Bad thing.
He's doing that on purpose to frighten people. That's what I'm talking about with authoritarianism. And I think that's bad.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. So subscribe and come hang out.